Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we got a couple of things to discuss as we continue on with the game review video. Look at the 14-game day we had on Wednesday, and we review all those games, and we preview the upcoming 15-game day on Friday. We'll get to all of that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Intent Hockey Channel. Now before we get into this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. We're so close to 200 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without you guys, so don't forget to subscribe. But to start off today, I want to say to all the people in the US that watch this, happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys. So there's no hockey games today because of US Thanksgiving. The NHL takes the day off for US Thanksgiving. It's a really good bench point. It's usually around the quarter mark of the season. It's a little bit earlier this past couple of years that they started the season later, but it is usually the really good benchmark for the playoffs. So we'll get to all of that in a second, but I want to recap the 14-game day we had yesterday. There was a lot of good NHL action yesterday. I will start with the Detroit Red Wings and New Jersey Devils. I was thinking that the Devils would have this as a possible stepping stone for them to get back on the winning path, and this was a complete opposite. The Red Wings were able to win this game 4-0. A huge win for the Detroit Red Wings, who really obliterated the New Jersey Devils right from the beginning. They scored 3 goals in a span of a minute and 12 seconds, and it was just, they took off, and they never looked back. The Red Wings got a goal and an assist from Robbie Fabry, 2 assists from Daniel Sprong, and then Raymond, Larkin, and Sider all scored for the Detroit Red Wings in the win, and then Alex Lyons stopped all 16 shots he faced in the shutout. So Devils were not able to get on the board. It was a really complete effort there from the Detroit Red Wings, both on the defensive end and up front, and they really looked like a completely different team than the team that lost back-to-back games in Sweden. So definitely a really good win there for the Detroit Red Wings to get back in the winning record. Detroit improved to 9-6-3, and the Devils are back down to 800 at 8-8-1. So definitely, it was not a good showing for the Devils. Even with Hughes back in the lineup, they've still lost a couple of games. They're not doing overly good right now. Hopefully they're able to get some more people back from injury. Heischer's still injured, Meyer's still injured, so they still do have a couple of injuries, but hopefully they're not going to be taking overly long to get back into the lineup. But definitely that was a really bad loss there for the New Jersey Devils, and not being able to score at least one goal and getting shut out by the Red Wings is not very fantastic, especially to their third-string goalie in Lyons. So not a great game there from the Devils, and they dropped down to 500 at the Thanksgiving Day break, but the Wings improved to 9-6-3, and approaching the 20-game mark, they're still with a winning record. Then you had the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are on a 9-game losing streak, who had lost 13 of 14. They really needed a win. Laine had just been benched. They exploded offensively, and they got a much-needed victory. They ended their 9-game losing streak, and they won by beating the Chicago Blackhawks 7-3. Absolutely fantastic game there from the Jackets. Complete effort. Hawks would score a couple of third-period goals to make it interesting, but this one was 7-1 Jackets at the end of the second period. So this was all Jackets in the first 2 periods. Hawks would get a couple of late third-period goals, but this was all Jackets. Werenski had a 4-assist night. Jenner scored twice. Sillinger and Marchenko both had a goal and an assist. Boqvist had 2 assists, and Gabranson, Voronkov, and this goal here from Patrick Laine off a beautiful pass from Adam Fantilli would get Laine his 3rd goal of the season, his first one since being healthy scratch. Remember, all clips are credited to Sportsnet, and would put the Jackets up 7-1 late in the 3rd period. That was a huge goal for Laine. It's probably a major confidence booster for him after being healthy scratch, and that's a huge goal for the Jackets. That one really was just an adding on tally there, but it was a fantastic pass from Fantilli, a fantastic goal from Laine. So Laine was able to go on the board too, and it was a huge goal there for him. That was the 7th of the game for the Jackets. For the Blackhawks, meanwhile, Dickinson, Reese Johnson, and Bedard were the 3 goal scorers for the Blackhawks. Bedard being one of the fastest players 18 years or younger to hit 10 goals. So definitely, Bedard's been fantastic. He's hit double digits now, and he looks fantastic, but this was a completely dominant effort from the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Hawks were able to go down to 5-12-0 with the loss. Jackets improved to a 5-11-4 with the win. So definitely, solid game there from the Jackets. That was a good all-around effort. It was a much-needed win too. So good stuff there from Columbus to get the win. For the Hawks, they continue to lose. I think they're up to like 5 or 6 game losing streak now. They're not doing overly good, and they could definitely use a win in the not-too-distant future. But definitely, going to be interesting to see. But the Hawks fall at the hands of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Then we had the Boston Bruins and Florida Panthers play a really close, tightly contested affair. Bruins would open the scoring, giving themselves a 1-0 lead. Then the Panthers would tie it up at 1-1. Really quickly after, the Bruins would take a 2-1 lead in the second period. The Bruins add another one to give them an insurance marker, 3-1 in the second period, and that's the way the game ended. Bruins were able to beat the Florida Panthers 3-1 in the battle of the 2 best teams in the Atlantic Division. For Boston, they improved to 14-1-3. For the Panthers, they dropped down to 12-6-1. So definitely. Panthers did give the Bruins a run for their money, but it was the Bruins who still come away with the victory. Coyle, Beecher, and Poitras were the 3 goal scorers for the Bruins. The Panthers' lone goal scorer was Anton Lundell. So definitely interesting stuff there. The Bruins continue to look absolutely fantastic, and I think they're doing absolutely phenomenal this year. If you look at the Panthers, they gave the Bruins a really good run. They competed extremely hard, and they lost to what was a superior team this night. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's a fantastic game in my opinion from the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers. And it'll be interesting to see what happens next time these two play, but for this time, Boston improves to 14 wins and continues to lead the Atlantic. Well, even with the loss, Florida is second in the Atlantic still. So definitely an interesting game there. And the Buffalo Sabres had a 3-2 lead late against the Washington Capitals and wound up losing. They dropped this game 4-3 in overtime after giving up a late game-tying goal and then giving up the OT winner. The Capitals improved to 10-4-2. Sabres dropped to 8-9-2, so definitely not great news there for the Sabres, but at least they're able to get a point. For the Capitals, Strome had a goal and an assist, including the OT winner. Carlson had 2 assists, and Wilson, Oshie, and Alexiev also scored for the Caps in the win, while Victor Olofsson had 2 assists, and Cozens. This goal here from Zach Benson, which at the time made 2-0 Buffalo, which was an absolutely beautiful between-the-legs goal to give the Buffalo Sabres a 2-0 lead. That was also Benson's first career NHL goal, so that was a fantastic goal for Zach Benson. It doesn't come in a winning effort, but that was an absolutely fantastic first career NHL goal for Benson. And Peterka were the 3 goal scorers for the Sabres in the loss, so definitely. This was a game that the Sabres probably should have won. They should have locked it down for the last minute or so and came away with a victory. Instead, they only come away with 1 point, which is sort of not really good, and if this team wants to make the playoffs this year, they're going to have to try and start closing out those games. Caps continue to be resilient. I think they're like something like 9-1-1 in their last 11 games. They're absolutely phenomenal, and they're able to once again come back and get a huge win. So definitely, it'll be interesting to see how much longer this can go for the Capitals, but they get another win, which was huge for them. Then we had the Winnipeg Jets avoid blowing a 2-0 lead and wound up beating the Lightning in an overtime 3-2, so a really good win there for the Jets to improve to 11-5-2, dropping the Bolts to 9-6-5. For the Jets, Morrissey had a goal and an assist, while Scheifele and Lowry, who had the OT winner, also scored for the Jets. And for the Lightning, Point and Stamkos were 2 goal scorers. So really good stuff there. It was 2-0 Jets at 1 point. Bolts showed their resiliency to once again push another game to overtime. But even though they beat the Boston Bruins in overtime just a couple days ago, they were not able to win this game in overtime, and they have now lost 5 of 6 games this year in overtime. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. But yeah, bad loss there for the Tampa Bay Lightning to once again drop another one, but they still have a pretty good game record at the 20-game mark with the 9-6-5 record. If you look at the Winnipeg Jets, they have a huge win to improve their record to 11-5-2 as they continue on to remain a top 3 team right now in the Central Division. So definitely going to be interesting to see, but Jets are able to come away with a huge OT victory over the Bolts. And then we had a 1-0 Rangers win over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Really low scoring affair between those two teams. Lafreniere had the lone goal scorer for the New York Rangers in the win, while Quick stopped all 32 shots he faced in the New York Rangers shutout. Penguins dropped to 9-9-0. Rangers improved to 13-3-1. So definitely, Penguins looked all right in this game. They had a couple of chances to put puck in the net and tie this game up, but Quick was fantastic in this game, as did the New York Rangers. Lafreniere got the lone goal, and definitely it was a really interesting game, but the Rangers were able to beat their Pennsylvania rivals, and they held them to no goals. So really good stuff there from the Rangers, who dropped the Penguins to 500 and continue to improve to lead that team in the Metro. Then we had the Carolina Hurricanes open up the first period with 4 goals and wound up beating the Edmonton Oilers 6-3, who continue to have problems defending. Canes improved to 11-7-0. Oilers at this point in time, at the Thanksgiving Day break, are down to 5-12-1, which is absolutely surprising. I was not expecting this when I predicted the Oilers to make the Pacific Division title this year. Jarvis and Teravainen both had a goal and an assist. Chatfield had 2 assists, while Drury, Fast, Ignatius, and Burns all also scored for the Carolina Hurricanes in the win, while Hyman scored twice and Ekholm also scored for the Oilers in the loss. So definitely, Hyman was a really good bright spot in this game. The Oilers, after being down 4-1 after the first, started to make it closer, or eventually make it 5-3, but it was too little too late. The Oilers do fall to the Carolina Hurricanes. Definitely an interesting game, but this was the Carolina Hurricanes team who dominated from the start, and once again, the Oilers cannot defend cannot keep the puck out of the net, and they are continuing to have troubles. I really do have concerns about this Oilers team, and if they are even able to make the playoffs, not even just the top three. I have the concerns about them making the playoffs. So, going to be interesting to see, but the Oilers continue to lose. They've given up 17 goals over the last 2 games, and I think they're really in need of a goalie change right now. If you look at the Carolina Hurricanes, that's a huge win. Great step forward for them to get their offense going, and they're improved to 11-7-0. If you look at the Islanders, they get a huge win to get back-to-back wins now, as they beat the Philadelphia Flyers 3-2 after starting the game up 2-0. Huge win there for the Islanders to improve to 7-6-5. The Flyers' 5-game winning streak comes to an end as they fall to 10-8-1 in the season. This was a really good game between these two Metropolitan Division teams. Nelson scored twice, Pelican Engvall had 2 assists, and Lee also scored for the Islanders in the win. Or for the Flyers, York and Farabee were 2 goal scorers in the loss. So definitely, it was a really interesting game. But for the Islanders, this was a huge win. They improved to 7-6-5. They're back up to above 500. So some really good stuff there. They're still not playing overly well, but they have been able to get a couple of wins. If you look at the Flyers, bad loss. They dropped to 10-8-1. They still were very competitive in this game, but they do drop and lose their 5-game winning streak. So definitely interesting to see, but the Islanders are the better team on this date, and it'll be interesting to see if the Flyers are able to come away with a victory in their next game. Then, for a second time this season, the Arizona Coyotes were a part of a scoring fest in one of their games, as they were able to go toe-to-toe with the St. Louis Blues, but wound up losing 6-5 in regulation in a very high-scoring affair. Blues improved to 10-7-1. Coyotes now back below 500 at 8-9-2, so really interesting stuff there. Saad had 2 assists. Well, Leddy, Parayko, Hayes, Shen, Toropchenko, and Thomas were the 6 goal scorers for the Blues in the win. Meanwhile, for the Arizona Coyotes, Carchoni and Bukestad both had a goal and an assist. Michelli had 2 assists, and Schmal, Zucker, and Krause were the other goal scorers for the Coyotes in the loss. So definitely, this was an opportunity here for the Arizona Coyotes to tie the St. Louis Blues for a playoff spot. Instead, they wind up losing and drop under 500. So really bad stuff there for the Coyotes, but definitely interesting stuff as they continue to try and win against some of the better teams, and they continue to lose though against. Like, they just recently lost to Winnipeg, they lost to St. Louis. These are Central Division teams who are making now up ground on the Arizona Coyotes, so that's not really good news. So hopefully Arizona can start to right the ship and get out of this losing streak. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Blues, they continue to look really good. In this game, it was all of their offense that was contributing. Their goaltending was a little bit questionable, but their offense was able to get the job done. They got scoring from all over the place, and they were able to improve to double-digit wins. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's a really good game there from the Blues. Then we had the Nashville Predators double up the Calgary Flames 4-2 to improve to 8-10-0, dropping the Flames to 7-9-3. This was an opportunity here for the Flames to get back up to 500, and they're not able to do it. And now the Flames' really tough schedule starts. Meanwhile, Nashville has now won 3 straight, and they're only 2 games below 500, so Nashville's not completely out of it yet. For the Predators, McDonough had 2 assists, while Sissons, Parson, and Carey and O'Reilly were the 4 goal scorers for the Predators in the win. Meanwhile, for the Flames, Sharon Govich and Hanlon were the 2 scorers in the loss, as the Flames dropped down, like we said, to 7-9-3. So definitely, Flames falter again. They're now 4 back out of a playoff spot. There's 2 games below 500. Not great news, especially going up against 4 of the best teams in the Western Conference right now. Then we have the Predators winning another game. They're up to 8-10-0. They've definitely had a really good winning streak started by the Chicago Blackhawks game last week. But definitely, really good stuff there from the Predators to improve their record and get closer and closer to a playoff spot. And the Vegas Golden Knights were able to win an extremely tight battle between 2 of the top teams in the Pacific Division, as they were able to beat the Dallas Stars 2-1 in overtime. Knights improved to 14-4-2, dropping the Stars to 12-4-2. So definitely interesting stuff there from both teams. Amadio and Eichel, this goal here, Eichel and OT, getting the OT winner, would help the Vegas Golden Knights win in overtime 2-1. Hintz was the lone goal scorer for the Dallas Stars. So definitely an interesting game there. Knights were able to win 2-1 thanks to Eichel's OT winner, and the Knights at the 20-game mark have 30 points, while the Stars are not too far back with only the 18-game mark. So definitely interesting stuff there, but the Stars continue to look really good. They continue to do well, but at this point in time, the Knights still have their number, especially after winning in the conference final last year over them. So definitely really good game there from the Knights. The Canadians were able to get up to a 2-0 lead. The Ducks would tie the game at 3-3, and then a late third-period goal from Alex Newhook would give the Montreal Canadiens a 4-3 victory over the Anaheim Ducks. Canadians improved to 8-9-2, they're only 1 game below 500. Ducks drop to 9-10-0. They're now 1 game below 500. So really good stuff there from those 2 teams. New York scored twice, Evans had 2 assists, and both Matheson and Gooley also scored for the Canadiens in the win, while McTavish had 3 points with 2 goals and an assist, and Vetrano had a goal and an assist in the loss. So definitely really interesting stuff there. The Ducks continue to fall a little bit right now. I think they're on a 3-game losing streak. They're down to below 500. So not overly great stuff there from the Ducks, who had a really great stretch of 6-game winning streak just a little while ago, but nearing the 20-game mark, they're not doing overly well. If you look at the Montreal Canadiens, huge resilient win to improve to 8-9-2, and they're now back to only a game below 500. So really great game there from the Canadiens and a really great win. Then the Seattle Kraken would absolutely destroy the San Jose Sharks, 7-1. Kraken absolutely came out flying from the first period, and they would eventually build up a big enough lead that it was out of hand for the second half of the game. The Kraken were able to get a 4-point night from Oliver Bjorkström with a goal and 3 assists, a 3-point night from Eli Tolvanen with 2 goals and 8 assists. McCann and Gord both had a goal and 8 assists. Oleksiak had 2 assists, and Tanev and Larson also scored for the Kraken in the victory, while Hoffman was the lone goal scorer for the San Jose Sharks in the loss. Sharks dropped to 3-15-1, and for the first time this season, the Kraken are back up to 500 at 8-8-5. That is absolutely a fantastic record for the Kraken. If you look at the Kraken, after starting 0-4-1 to be up to 8-8-5, it's absolutely phenomenal. So have they lost their fair share of games? Yes. Have they blown a whole bunch of leads they shouldn't have? Yes. Am I surprised? They're already up to 500 at the 21-game mark? Yes, I'm a little bit surprised. The Kraken have done really good. They've been really resilient. They've been able to find their offensive game that sort of helped them get line back up to 500. So really good stuff there for the Kraken. But the Kraken absolutely destroy the Sharks, who continue to falter, and now down to 3-15-1. And then the nightcap game was the Avalanche taking on the Vancouver Canucks. This was a 2-2 game in the third period. It looked really close. But then the Avalanche would score, make it 3-2. This goal here from Cale Makar, a beautiful breakaway goal, would give the Avalanche a 4-2 lead, and then they would pot an empty netter to give themselves a 5-2 lead between two of the really best teams in the Western Conference. The Avalanche improved to 12-6-0, dropping the Vancouver Canucks to 13-6-1. So definitely, it was a really close game, really good game. Makar, Rantanen, Drouin, and Nichushkin all had a goal and an assist for the Avalanche, while Tufte scored his first goal in Colorado after signing there in the offseason as the Avalanche goal scorer. And then Miller and Höglander were 2 goal scorers for the Canucks in the loss. So definitely, it was a really close game, really interesting game. It was very tightly contested into the third period, but in the third period, the Avalanche would pull away and beat the Vancouver Canucks. Definitely, it was an interesting game. It was a really good game, but the Avalanche do come away with a 5-2 victory, and they do continue to push the Stars for first place in the Central Division. So really good win there for the Avalanche as they finish up their pre-Thanksgiving schedule with a huge win over the Vancouver Canucks. So those are your 14-game reviews from the past couple of days. Looking at a couple of teams who have hit the 20-game mark. First, the Columbus Blue Jackets. At the 20-game mark, they have 5-11-4 for 14 points. They have 58 goals for, 73 goals against, a -15 record. And players with 14 or more points at the 20-game mark, there's only one player in Columbus who has over 14 points at the 20-game mark, and that is Zach Werenski, who has a goal, 14 assists, and 15 points, on pace to hit 61 points this year. So not overly great news for the Jackets, who don't really have anyone even close to a point per game. Then we have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have hit the 20-game mark. They have a 9-6-5 record at 25-game mark for 23 points. They have 70 goals for, 72 goals against, a -2 rating. Players with more than 14 points at the 20-game mark. Mikhail Sergachev has 2 goals, 12 assists, 14 points. Brandon Hagel has 9 goals, 10 assists, 19 points, on pace for 78 points. Hedman has 4 goals, 17 assists, and 21 points. Stamkos has 8 goals, 13 assists, 21 points. Both are on pace for 86 points. Point has 8 goals, 16 assists, 24 points. He's on pace for 99 points. And Kucherov is currently the team leader with 13 goals, 16 assists, 29 points, on pace for currently 119 points. So definitely, Kucherov continues to be a very, very good goal scorer, a very, very good point getter, and continues to lead the Bolts in goal scoring. Meanwhile, for the Knights, at their 20-game mark, they have a 14-4-2 record for 30 points, so they have been absolutely phenomenal. 69 goals for, 48 goals against, a +21 rating. Players with more than 14 points at the 20-game mark, they have Marchessault, who has 9 goals, 5 assists, 14 points. Theodore has 4 goals, 14 assists, 18 points. Stone has 5 goals, 13 assists, 18 points. Theodore's on pace for 73 points. Stone for 74. Carlson has 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points. He's tied for the team lead in points with Jack Eichel, who has 8 goals, 12 assists, 20 points. Both are on pace for an 82-point pace. So really good stuff there from the Knights, who have definitely gotten a lot of contributions from everywhere. And then with the Vancouver Canucks also reaching the 20-game mark yesterday, they have a record of 13-6-1 at the 20-game mark for 27 points, 80 goals for, 51 goals against, a +29 rating. Players who have hit 14 points at the 20-game mark for Vancouver Canucks: Kuzmenko with 3 goals, 11 assists, 14 points. Ronick with a goal, 18 assists, 19 points. He's on pace for 77 points. Besser, who has 13 goals, 9 assists, 22 points, on pace for 53 goals and 90 points. Pettersson, who has 8 goals, 20 assists, 28 points. He's currently on pace for 115 points. Miller, who has 13 goals, 17 assists, 30 points. He's on pace for 70 assists, 53 goals, and 123 points. And then Quinn Hughes leads the team in points right now with 31. He has 8 goals, 23 assists, 31 points. He's on pace for 94 assists and 127 points. So definitely, Hughes looks fantastic. The whole Canucks team looks fantastic. And even though they're on a bit of a slow stretch right now, they're still looking pretty good at the 20-game mark. So definitely, there are some really good teams who have hit the 20-game mark. The Bolts are in a pretty good position. The Canucks and Knights are two of the best teams in the Western Conference. And then the Jackets are sort of the low-end spectrum of the Eastern Conference. And not overly great news there, especially given the fact they had a 9-game losing streak. So definitely, not great stuff there, but the really good stuff there from the Knights and the Canucks to finish up the 20-game mark with hugely great winning records. Going over to a couple of things I want to discuss here quickly about the Thanksgiving mark and the 20-game mark. So at the Thanksgiving mark in the salary cap era, if a team is in a playoff spot, 76% of the time that team winds up making the playoffs. So usually 3/4 of the playoff field who's in the playoffs at the Thanksgiving Day break winds up making the playoffs. Now I know it's not as important as it has been in the past couple of years, as with the NHL starting the season earlier, they don't usually hit the 20-game marks by the Thanksgiving Day break, but definitely this is an interesting stat I think is really going to be interesting to follow. And another interesting thing is the 20-game mark. Now if we put all the teams in the playoffs at the 20-game mark for each team over the past 5 years, 81% of the teams who were in a playoff spot wound up making the playoffs. So basically 4/5 of the playing field wound up making the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see what winds up happening. We haven't had all the teams at the 20-game mark yet, but once we do, I'll give you the standings as of all the teams' 20-game marks, and we'll see who's in the playoffs. But it does seem very likely that teams who are in a playoff spot at the 20-game mark, if you put all the teams at the 20-game mark in the standings, wind up making the playoffs. So that'll be interesting to see. If you look at the 20-game mark too, teams who hit 25 points or more at the 20-game mark since the standings changed in 13-14 to the 8-division format, 67 of 78 teams who hit 25 points or more at the 20-game mark wound up making the playoffs. That's 85.8% of teams who wind up making the playoffs if they have 25 points or more at the 20-game mark. And if you go a little bit higher, teams who hit 28 points or more, if you go back once again since the 13-14 standings changed, if a team has 28 points or more at the 20-game mark, 32 of 35 teams have made the playoffs. So 32 of 35 teams who have had 28 points or more at the 20-game mark wound up making the playoffs. That's 91.4%. So definitely, it looks like if you have at least over 25%, if not over 28%, you're almost guaranteed to make a playoff spot. There's definitely a few exceptions, but I definitely think there's a very likely chance that if you have over 28 points or over 25 points, you're in a pretty good position to make the playoffs. Meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, if you have a below 500 record at the 20-game mark, so under 20 points, since the 13-14 standings changed, only 8 of 64 teams wound up making the playoffs. That's 12.5% of teams who wound up making the playoffs after having a below 500 start. The only teams who have so far been able to make the playoffs after a below 500 start were the 13-14 Jackets, who had 17 points, the 13-14 Flyers, who had 18 points, the 15-16 Flyers, who had 17 points, the 15-16 Ducks, who had 18 points, the 15-16 Bolts, who had 19 points, the 16-17 Flames, who had 17 points, the 18-19 Knights, who had 17 points, and the 18-19 Blues, who had 17 points. So those are the only 8 teams who wound up making the playoffs after a sub-500 start to the season. And if you go a little bit even lower, teams who have 16 points or less at the 20-game mark never have made the playoffs since the standings have changed. In the past 8 years, remember, not including the shortened season, not including the COVID stop season, so not including those 2 seasons, because those ones were a little bit messed up. But if you look at the other seasons since the standings changed, no teams have made the playoffs of the 30 teams who wound up finishing with 16 points or lower at the 20-game mark. So definitely, we're going to have to keep a track on this over the next couple of days as more and more teams hit the 20-game mark, but that's really interesting to see. If you have over 25 points at the 20-game mark, you have an 85.8% chance in the past 8 seasons, not including the 2 COVID seasons, to make the playoffs. If you're over 28 points, you have a 91% chance. If you're under 500 at the 20-game mark, you only have a 12.5% chance to make it in. And if you're 16 points or lower at the 20-game mark, you're almost guaranteed not to make it in. No team so far, since the challenge have changed, has been able to make it in after starting the season with below 16 points. So definitely, it'll be interesting to see. A quick game review for tomorrow's games is we have 15 games on the schedule for tomorrow following the Thanksgiving Day break. As we said, Thanksgiving today, no game action. But tomorrow we have at 10 a.m. the Detroit Red Wings take on the Boston Bruins. The only team who has so far beaten the Bruins in regulation will take them on again. Also at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we have the Rangers taking on the Flyers. Flyers looking to get back to the winning record, while the Rangers look to get yet another win and improve their record in the Metro. Then at 11 o'clock, we have the Maple Leafs taking on the Blackhawks. Leafs' first game since the Sweden trip. Take on the Blackhawks team is looking to end a losing streak. The Jackets will take on the Devils at 12 p.m. Pacific time, as will the Preds and the Blues, and the Oilers and the Capitals. So Jackets looking to build off their huge win against the Blackhawks, taking on a Devils team looking to get to back above 500. The Preds are looking for their fourth straight win and looking to go only one game back of 500. Taking on the St. Louis Blues team is looking to get to 11 wins. And then the Washington Capitals look to improve on their record and go 10-1-1 in their last 12 games, taking on an Oilers team who's looking to try and help defend. At 12:30, we have a Battle of California between the Ducks and the Kings, as the Ducks look to get back up to 500, take on the Kings team who's looking to continue to catch the Canucks and the Knights. At 12:30, we have the Canadiens take on the Sharks. Canadiens looking to get back to 500. Sharks, meanwhile, looking to get a win before they hit the 20-game mark tomorrow. The Penguins take on the Sabres at 3 o'clock Pacific time. This is a really interesting game. Sabres looking to get up to 500 at the 20-game mark as well. Meanwhile, for the Penguins, they look to get to back above 500. If you look at the Islanders taking on the Senators, Islanders looking for their third straight win of the season. Senators first game back since the Sweden trip, so it'll be interesting to see how they do. Another game between the Bolts and the Hurricanes. So far, the first two games between these two teams, so far one team has been shadowing each of them. It'll be interesting to see if we get another show between these two teams. The Jets take on the Panthers at 5 o'clock. Jets looking to continue to improve in the Central Division. Panthers looking to bounce back after a poor game against the Boston Bruins. The Flames take on the Stars at 5:30. Flames' tough next 5 games start here against the Dallas Stars, who are looking to keep pace and retain top spot in the Central Division. The Avalanche take on the Minnesota Wild. Avalanche looking to keep pace with the Stars for top spot in the Central. Wild, their first game since the Sweden break. And then the Canucks take on the Kraken. Kraken, after beating them last week, look to go above 500 for the first time this year. Canucks, meanwhile, looking to end their slump that they're in right now and get back on the winning record. So definitely a lot of interesting games there tomorrow for NHL hockey. And then a look at the standings at the Thanksgiving Day break. Remember, usually at the Thanksgiving Day break, 3/4 of the teams who are in the playoffs wind up making the playoffs at the end of it. So here's what the standings look like as of right now. 31-point Boston leads the Atlantic Division, followed by 25-point Florida and 23-point Tampa. 27-point New York Rangers are first in the Metro, followed by 22-point Washington and 22-point Carolina. 22-point Toronto is first wild card, and 21-point Detroit is second wild card. 21-point Philly is out of the playoffs. 19-point NYR, 18-point Pittsburgh, 18-point Buffalo, 18-point Montreal, 17-point Jersey, 16-point Ottawa, and 14-point Columbus are also out of the playoffs at this point in time. Meanwhile, for the Western Conference, Dallas leads the Central with 26 points, followed by 24-point Colorado and 24-point Winnipeg. 30-point Vegas leads the Pacific, followed by 27-point Vancouver and 25-point LA. The 21-point Blues and 21-point Kraken are two teams in the playoff spot right now, followed by the 18-point Ducks, 18-point Coyotes, 17-point Flames, 16-point Preds, 14-point Wild, 11-point Oilers, 10-point Blackhawks, and 7-point Sharks. So definitely, those are the standings as of the Thanksgiving break. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what we discussed today. What were some of your best moments from the past day of NHL action? What were some of the games that you were surprised by? Are you surprised the standings are as they are right now? Are you surprised that the Oilers are still below 500? Are you still the Flames are below 500? Are you surprised the Kraken have crawled back into a playoff spot? Are you surprised the Flyers are now out of a playoff spot? Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Plus, are you surprised about the stats that if a team hits above 25 points at a 20-game mark, they have a really good chance of making the playoffs, but if they hit under 500 at the 20-game mark, they have a really good chance of missing. Definitely. I'll love to hear all of your guys' thoughts on that down in the comments. That's what I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you really liked it, remember to subscribe down below. We're so close to 200 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this with all of you guys, so don't forget to subscribe. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so definitely check that out. I'll leave a link down in the description below, and I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.